Welcome everybody, and today we'll be talking about client details. Blossom asked a question, and the question is a very important one. She said, what's the best hire rate to go for when you're applying for jobs, especially when you're on Upwork? And I want to use this to teach you everything about client details and just talk about hire rates. So I want you guys to pay attention to this. It's going to be straightforward. Now, for every job you apply for, so this is just a job I just saw, this is just a job I clicked on. For every job you apply for, you would always see about the client details here, this highlighted in the blue. And you must be able to interpret everything there because it tells you everything about the client. Now, starting with the reviews. What are reviews? Reviews are what other freelancers have rated the client. Now, if you want to see more about the reviews, you can scroll down and see different things about the client. As you can see, the latest review was someone who gave the client 1.0 out of 5 and said the client was unresponsive. But other people gave this client 5.0, 5.0, 5.0. And as you can see, the client had 5.0. Every other freelancer gave them, apart from the last freelancer. So that tells you that, okay, that's a one-off. Yes, and averagely, the client, even with that 1.0, the client still averaged 4.6. And that's like 4.57. So the first thing you are checking is, you're checking the ratings of the client. The second thing you can see from the client is the client location. Now, why does the client location matter? It matters because of time zone. So you are sending your message to your client in the afternoon, and you're saying the client is not replying you, whereas the client is sleeping, just because you did not pay attention to client zone, time zone. So this is why time zone is very important. Now, the reason we are here, even though we're still going to talk about other things, is this hire rate. Now, what is hire rate? Hire rate is gotten from the total number of jobs a client posts and the number of times they hire from the jobs they post. So if a client posts 100 jobs and they hire from the job, they hire 50 times. Now, hire rate is different from number of freelancers hired. Because sometimes before they used to put the number of freelancers hired there, I don't know, I can't see it here. Maybe they've changed that. But hire rate is different from number of freelancers that they've hired. So hire rate just says for every 100 job they post, they hire 90 times. So that's 90% hire rate. If a client posts a job 10 times, and out of the 10 times, they hire 10 times, even though they hire 20 freelancers, maybe two per job, or maybe some jobs they hire 3, some they hire 1, others they hire 2. Everything became 20 freelancers. The hire rate is 100%. Now, that's what hire rate is. Then you can now see the open jobs, meaning that how many jobs that the client currently have posted and is open currently. Now, then you can see the amount the client have spent, the amount of freelancers they've hired. Oh, this is what I was looking for. Now, remember I said that, can you see now this client have posted 39 jobs, have a higher rate of 83%, but they've hired 43 people. So that means that they've hired more people than the jobs they've posted. So that's what I'm trying to say. I was not, that's 43 hires from 39 jobs, even though it's 83% higher rate. So from these 39 jobs, they've hired 83%. That's, you can do the figures about 20 something times they've hired, but they've hired 43. So that means there are a lot of jobs that they've hired more than one person. Then they have 11 active jobs. Funny thing about all these things, these hires, this number of hires, this active, you can still scroll down and see the jobs that they have that is active. As you can see the jobs in progress, and you can see the ones that they've paid. There is no longer in progress. And if you still want to click those jobs, in case you want to, maybe you are trying to see, you can still click this option. There's an option where you can click the jobs, the particular jobs that they posted, like the particular job they hired from. You can still click on it and see if you need to see maybe the kind of jobs the client posts or the different, like you can see a lot from that. Now, the Upwork has a very, their platform has a very, where we are trying to load it. It just takes a longer time to load now. Now, for example, now if we check jobs, for example, if we check jobs, okay, so this this was just this is a filter of a job, and let me just clear this. Let me clear this filter and show you some of the things. Because when you are searching for jobs, you guys know about the search filter, but it's not the search filter I'm here to talk about. So let's just take any job. Let's just take any job for example. Let's take this job for example. As you can see, you just click on this job for example, and you can see the about the client from this job. You can see everything you need to know. And see, this client have posted 7 times and they have a 100% higher rate. And these are jobs you want to go for. Then other thing, okay, another thing I've not covered is I've talked higher rates, hourly rate. Sorry. Now, you can also see the amount of average they pay per hour. And what does that do for you? Is when you're applying, when you're submitting proposal, for example, and you see that a client that averagely pays maybe $50 per hour, or let's just even use this client for example. This client pays averagely $10 per hour. It means that you should not be, if you are billing this client, you don't want to bill this client $50 per hour. You don't get. You want to bill this client $100 per hour because someone says they averagely pay $10. Now, there's always an exception to every rule, meaning that you can check what they've paid. Like this client mostly they've done consultation, a lot of consultation, and okay, the only hourly job they paid is $10 per hour, and that was about 11 years ago. So that means this client might have grown bigger between that time and now. So, but the point is this: you can see the about the client here. Then, if you need more info, you can scroll down and see maybe if you need to get more insight or more info to know more about the particular client. So that's for this particular job. So let's scroll to another job. Let's look for, okay, let's only say we are looking for payment verified jobs. So you're going to see payment verified jobs. Okay, this is another person, this is another job. So this is so you scroll to at least you look at your right-hand side, as you can see what I said, 11 to 64% higher rate. Like this is higher rate you want to go for. I'm trying to look for another higher rate where it's a little bit low, and you can see what's how to avoid. So this is 71% higher rate. I don't know why we're saying good higher rates, for example. And as you can see now, another thing you can see sometimes if you check here well, you can also see if it is a big company or a small company. So they are a large company of between 100 to 1,000 people. That's who they are. Sometimes you can see this info here and what they do. They are into sales and marketing, and they are a large company. So you can, everything you need to know about the client is always there. Then another thing you can see from a client is member when they joined. So sometimes you can see a client have not spent much, but they just joined last month. So you can see that this info about the client, apart from higher rate, which is why we were here really, but the other info of about clients, you can use that to judge who a client is, or to judge if a client is potentially for you. Now, one point I want to make for you guys is this: the same way a client will take their time to look for the best freelancer for themselves, that's the same way you two should also. That's one of the first things my mentor taught me. The same way a client will take their time to look for the best freelancer, that's the same way you should also look for the best client for yourself. So this is 86% IRA. I don't know. We are seeing good IRA rates today, which is very, So I'm just trying to, check different IRA rates. This is 91% IRA rate. Oh, today is a very wonderful day. Wow. This is 64%. These are good. Let's go into niche. Let's niche down. Let's check different categories. So let's go into categories. Maybe we'll do data analytics. Data science and analytics category. So let's just look for jobs in data science. Let's see the higher rates. They're about the clients. When I was just 100%. 72%. Today is a wonderful day. Do we have good higher rate on weekends? But correlation might not be causation sometimes. So please don't just take it as 55%. Now, this is the lowest we've seen so far, but it's still fair because look at this 55% higher rate now, and they've spent 134,000, which is what I was saying, that when you still check, maybe you see different jobs and you are seeing maybe 50 something percent, then you check the amount of they've spent, so you use that to say, okay, even though it's still maybe 40-50%, they've spent a lot. So that should at least tell you that, okay, this is a client that spends. Maybe most time, because you want to use the info of this about the client to just ensure that you're applying for the right job. Because if you don't do that, then you're going to be submitting, this is 100% higher rates. I would like to see a low higher rates. And I don't know why I'm not seeing, what I'm seeing so far are just good higher rates. So now this is one. This is now the lowest that we've seen so far. There is a 32% higher rate. Should you apply for this kind of job? That's one question you should be asking yourself. Should you apply for this kind of job? Now, This is a 32% higher rate, but this client has spent almost $500,000. So that even though the higher rate is low, they've spent a lot. So these are things, these are conditions you give yourself, like when you're trying to apply. This even though the higher rate is now, the idea is, for me, I would rather still apply for a job where I see that has good higher rates than this particular client. They paid someone 4,000 plus recently. They paid someone 12,000 plus. So that means that when they hire, they pay well. If you are, they pay $30 per hour, yet $31 per hour. It's trying to tell you that when they hire, they pay well. So which is good. They have some jobs in progress. They've paid this one 44,000, working for 2 years plus. They pay this one 20,000 plus, working for a lot of years. So they pay. So that means this another thing you are seeing is that they hire people for long. Even though some of these jobs might have been closed, but they didn't close it, but it's still fine. So, but okay, they have some 2025. They came back some jobs from 3 months ago. See, these are August. That means last month they hired three different people or three different jobs, and they are paying people. So maybe they've not paid. So it's fixed. So they've not paid completely. So it's not showing. The figure is not showing. If it is hourly, it will show per hour. So that's why you can see the ones for hourly, or for fixed, you can't see. Now, so these are infos you are trying to check about this particular client now. But even though the higher rate is low, you are using this one to justify why you are applying for the lower higher rate. For me, in my own personal opinion, I would still rather apply for jobs where I see a higher rate than applying for this, even though the client has spent a lot. But if because when you're applying for jobs in the part where I teach you how to search for jobs, I tell you to save jobs, I tell you to, if I'm trying to look for jobs and I say, okay, maybe I want to apply for a job today, and I don't see any other job, maybe the other jobs I've seen, maybe they don't fit my criteria, and the only one I've seen that fits my criteria is this low higher rate with amount spent that is high. I can apply for this. Provided, because this is, even though this is a low higher rate, they have amount spent that justifies, that still say, okay, I can apply for. But even at that, I'm still telling myself in my mind that this is a high risk. So I call something high risk and low risk when you're applying for jobs. High risk application, low risk application. High risk application is something like this, because with a 32% higher rate, it tells you that for every 3 jobs they post, they only hire once out of 3. So that means for every 220, you divide 220 by 3. That's like 70 something, thereabouts. So that's the figure. So that means that the chances of you being hired on this job, apart from the proposals that you see here, the chances of you being hired on this job is 1 in 3. So to me, I tell myself that, okay, I apply for, because the mistake you can make is when you're applying for jobs and you say, oh, I've applied for 10 jobs. Whereas out of the 10 jobs, you did 8 high risk application and only 2 low risk application. So I don't want to go into high risk and low risk, but I can just briefly explain that. When I mean high risk and low risk, it means that high risk is, for example, higher rate is low. High risk is, for example, the number of proposals is high. Now, high risk is they've sent plenty invites, and out of the invite, a lot of people have replied, because today is not about activity, so I'm not going to talk about activity that much. But because I mentioned high risk, so I'm trying to explain where activity goes into high risk too. So high risk for some time, you people see. I've seen some people that will see jobs that, even though it's not in their location, they applied for it. Now you tell yourself, how many jobs have you applied for today? You say you've applied for 3 jobs. Whereas out of those 3 jobs, out of those 5 jobs you applied for, 4 of them are high risk. So you have to be, that's why I teach you those fundamentals I'm teaching you. You have to ensure that you are you're increasing your chances of getting these jobs by applying for jobs that meet the criteria you've learned. So I believe those are the things you need to know, especially when you're applying for jobs. So let's still try and check other clients to see, just for continuing our higher rate discussion. See 7 jobs at 100%. Like, you want to go for jobs that have a higher rate, like, because it gives you a higher chance of being hired. That's one criteria I go for, really. Now that does not mean you still don't. So because this is still in the searching of jobs, because I tell you, there are 3 parts to this: your profile, and you search and proposals. There are 3 parts to it. So apart from 3 out of the 4 fundamentals I mentioned, which is your niche, but at least your niche also plays a role. But let's not talk about that for now. But let's just say your profile, your proposals, and your searching strategy. Now, in this search is what we are talking about now, because if you now look, let's check this particular one, for example. So look at this 100% higher rate, which is good, but they've spent 307. This is a low spend client. So they just spend 370 for 5 jobs. So that means they pay low. So if you apply for this, look at this criteria. Let me show you. This is a high risk. This is a high risk application, for example. Like, see the amount they pay, which is low, but that does not still mean it won't be what for you. But when you now check the activity, 20 to 50, they sent 8 invites. Out of these 8 invites, 6 of them have replied. So when you see invite sent and unanswered invite, you can minus it. 8 minus 2 equals to 6. Sometimes this interview might be more than 6. It means that they're already talking to people from here. But if you check the figure from year and year, today is not about activity. Maybe we'll do another video. We'll talk about, I'll show you different activities and how to interpret them. But 8 minus 2 here is 6. It means they're interviewing 6. They are talking to 6. Now, the client might not even start talking to any of them. But so far, 6 of them replied. They will fall into interviewing. Because the moment they reply, they will enter the client message box. That's the way Upwork algorithm is structured. But look at this. So the client have sent 8 invites, and 20 to 50 people already applied for this job. Now, even though this client has 100% higher rates, if you now look at the activity, so there's a way, client details and job activity, they go hand in hand. And that's why I said the 3 things, your profile, which is also goes hand in hand, because when you do all these things and you don't have a good profile to affect you, then your proposals, if you see a good higher rate, if you see the activity is fine in your search and you still submit the wrong proposal, it means that other people will get the job before. So you see where all these things come together, they come hand in hand. But just that today we're just focused on this one part, higher rate. That's why my conversation is more in the direction of higher rates. So I hope with those few points, you guys understand or understood everything I've said about higher rate. Let me check another category. Let's go into VA before we round up. Let me check VA virtual assistant. That should be under admin. So look at virtual assistant. VA, let's go into VA. So look at the VA, the jobs in the VA niche. So look at this job now. This is a featured client, and this client have spent $3 million. So look at, they spent $3.5 million, 81% higher rates, and they've paid a lot. They've spent, like, this is a mid-sized company, but they spent $3.5 million on Upwork. See the invites. They've sent 50 invites, and 3 people have replied out of it. So, but they posted this job. This job was posted 18 minutes ago. Now, sometimes another point I need to note for you guys is that sometimes it's not the client that send these invites. It's Upwork that send this invite on their behalf. So you guys, another thing you need to notice, the client will post their job on their own. If Upwork realize that this is a very juicy job and they want the client to make money so that they'll pay them money, especially sometimes when the client is an enterprise client, Upwork will post the client on their behalf. Then sometimes in the future, when you see featured too, it means the clients, they are paying for see, as you can see here, this client paid to post their job. So that's why you see featured. If you see featured, it means that, because in the client's point of view, client posts free jobs. The way they charge them is, even though they've, Upwork changed the way they charge nowadays, but the way they charge normally is for every money you pay, they are charging the client a particular amount, a particular percentage. So that's where Upwork was making their money. But other than that, there are situations where a client can also pay to have their jobs like featured. That when it means feature, it means that it's just going to be, it will pop out for every freelancer in the niche that they are trying to target will see it on their job board. So even if, no matter the time they post it, because if you notice, this is arranged by newest. You can also sort it. I don't know if you know that you can sort this the way you see jobs in the different ways. You can sort it by client rating, client spend, relevance. Most times by default, you see newest. I don't know if you guys note that this is possible. So look at it. It's sorting jobs. Oh, this was posted a long time ago, but you can see this client have spent 30 million, but this was posted a long time ago. But you can see that you can sort job by client spend. You can sort jobs by client rating. If in case you want to sort jobs, rearrange jobs, you can sort jobs by client rating, client spend. You can sort job by relevance to you. Those ones will not be it will just be by relevance. It won't be by time. As you can see, this job was posted 2 months ago. It's not, but it's just that it's relevant to your profile. But you can also sort it by newest. That's where you can see the new freshest jobs. So that's one thing. Yeah. So as you can see, so look at this. So yeah, I hope with this point you guys understand the way higher rate works and how to interpret it. So 100% higher rates, clients joined last month and they spent 1K. So they posted 2 jobs, they've hired 2 times. 20K spent, the client is from Australia. Now, before you even click, and before I go, let me just say this one more thing. Before you click, there's some information you can see here that already tells you like, okay, this client has spent 20K. This is 5 star. They are payment verified. They are from Australia, and this is the budget. Like, so before you even read the job description, you can just use your eye to check all these things. Then when you now click, then the first thing you're checking the about the client. Yeah, 91% higher rates. You're checking amount spent, average spend. Then you're now checking the job activity. 5 to 10 people. They already interviewing one person. Like you need to check all this before you even read the job description. Because sometimes you see a job you like, you're happy about the job, and the job is the activity or the higher rate or the details, those things just disqualify the job for you. So I hope with this few point of mine, I'll be able to convince and explain to you the way higher rate works, and I hope you guys have learned. Thank you very, very much.